My name is Jennifer Namazy. I'm an allergist immunologist here in San Diego, California. I've been in practice for almost 23 years, but first and foremost, I'm a mom of three and also a founder of CharMed, Charmed Bling, make stethoscope charms for everyday use.
Welcome to MDF Instruments Crafting Wellness Podcast. We have Dr. Jennifer Namazy. She is the creator and founder of CharMed. I would really love to talk about kind of the inspiration.
Yeah, so in 2012, there were no real stethoscope charms on the market, certainly not ones like the ones we make and design. I loosely call myself an artist. My two daughters are far more talented than myself, as well as my mother, and they paint and draw and are fabulous artists. I'm more of I appreciate art and I get stimulated by design. I love architecture, I love fashion, I love jewelry and all kinds at all price points. And so I get inspired by pieces and by things in the environment, by architecture, and I design based on it. But I would have to say that more than anything, I'm inspired by our customers. And I would say that a huge portion of our catalog are created based on the requests of our customers. And so I take those requests, which is just one sentence, one line, something personal that a customer will send in on our website. And then I'll take that story and then create a charm for it.
I've seen them. I haven't seen them in person. I've only seen them on the site and on social media, but they're gorgeous. They're very detailed. And I love that you can have a little bit of fun with the stethoscope because here, at MDF, that's what we're about too. Just kind of not your ordinary, because you're in a serious industry doesn't mean that you can't have a little personality and a little bit of fun. How did this idea even come to you?
There were two kind of coinciding events that happened. The first was back in 2012, my oldest daughter was 6 at the time, and I was leaving for work, and she was playing dress up with some dresses and plastic shoes and plastic jewelry in her room. And I came in to say goodbye, and she chased me out and handed me one of her pink glitter rings. And she said, "Mommy, take this so you can, think about me." And then she ran back in her room. And so I took it to work and I, threw it in my bag. And when I got to work and unpacked, I was like, what am I going to do with this little ring? I mean, it didn't remind me of her, but I didn't know what to do with it. And so I looked at my pediatric stethoscope, which also was pink at the time, and I popped off the head and I put it on the tubing and then I reattached it. It's pretty simple to do at the time. And it did remind me of her all day, and I thought it was really cute. Around that time, I'd been working with, I work with nurses and other healthcare professionals every day. And one of the nurses had stopped me and said, "Hey, I want to show you my Pandora bracelet. I just got a new charm for my birthday. My daughter got me one with a little dog on it." And she was just really proud and sharing kind of things that she loved. And all of those charms on that bracelet were things that, reminded her of her family. And it was after those two events that I sat and thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could put charms on stethoscopes? And that was it.
It's such a great idea. And it does add a little bit of, bringing something with you, maybe that something personal, something that makes you think of someone you love. It's a really beautiful sentiment. Can you talk a little bit about the starting up of this and kind of maybe for people listening who also have that entrepreneurial spirit that maybe want to, start their own thing? How did you even get this going?
Always had an entrepreneurial mindset, but I think that the only way I can describe it is if you're standing at the edge of a beach and you're looking past the ocean and you know a point that you need to get to, but you have no idea how to build the bridge to get there. And I think that really describes, what I felt like at the time. I had an idea. I thought that people would be excited about it, but I didn't know how to get there. So I think that there were a series of luck sometimes. I created a prototype and I liked what it looked like, and then I had to find a factory to make it. Like you said, there might be listeners who have ideas, and I think the number one thing to really start with is your why, right? And I think for my why at the time was, here I am. I've been in practice about 8, 9 years or so. And I was looking for a creative outlet. I was looking for something. I mean, I love taking care of patients. I love working with my coworkers, but I was looking for some other way that I could express myself. And I think if you have a good why, you can follow that over time and keep turning back to it, because there are going to be ups and downs like a roller coaster with any business. And there'll be walls that you come up against. But if you have a good why, that'll always guide you through.
It's really interesting. The more and more people I talk to on this podcast, I think because you're in such a empathetic industry, you have to like want to care about people. You have to want to take care of them. You have to want to show up, even when that means sacrificing time with your own family, your own holidays, and all of these things. And so I think naturally, empathetic people are drawn into healthcare, and then naturally they have this creative kind of spirit as well. You're not just ever one thing. I think it's easy to kind of get put into a box. Imagine with the charms as well. It's kind of a way that you can bring a little creativity with you to work. Your brand mission is to make healthcare professionals feel seen and celebrated and stylish, even in the clinical setting. So why is this something that's important to you?
I think that it's always been important to me, more specifically in kind of what I do. I work in academic medicine, and so mentorship is very, very important to me. And I do mentor medical students and residents and fellows through the years. I especially love mentoring women physicians or women in healthcare, because I think that, just as we talked about, there are challenges, there are expectations, and I think I wanted to translate that into a bigger format in Charmed Bling to continue this collaborative effort, to continue the recognition of women in healthcare. We've launched this year our Healthcare Hero campaign, where we nominate healthcare heroes in the workplace, from veterinarian students to nursing students. We've had nurses in the field for 10 plus years, and we don't have the opportunity a lot to recognize each other. And I think that this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I would love to see kind of the company continue that aspect of things that I've done professionally over time as well.
That brings me to, what kind of feedback have you been getting from the medical community with these charms?
I think that, when I first started, it was 2012, and there were not a lot of companies creating products by physicians, certainly women physicians, not too many out there. So, there were a lot of quizzical looks like, well, why would you do this? I mean, you have a busy practice and you're a mom, and why this? Aren't you happy with what you have? And I think you really honed in on it, is that over time, and certainly since COVID, I mean, I think the COVID-19 pandemic really made us be introspective and think about what we really want. And self-care is huge now. Burnout is huge now. And so I think there are more companies coming out, such as other people that you've had on the show, scrub companies owned by women in healthcare, and other products. And I think that has really changed kind of how we look at having a business, having what we call side gigs. There are multiple Facebook groups that kind of cater to that in healthcare. So it's been a really interesting time to see over the last 12 or 13 years how people look at women in healthcare having businesses outside of what we are on a day-to-day basis.
What kind of challenges did you face when you were starting, and specifically to being a woman? I think even, back in 2012, as it not being as common as maybe it is now. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the obstacles you faced in starting this?
I felt very alone. I mean, there weren't, the opportunities of Facebook communities or podcasts like that you have right now, where I could have learned a lot from other people kind of paving the way. It was hard to find mentors that truly understood some of the challenges I had of being a mom, being a doctor, running a business. So I think that that was probably the biggest challenge, is feeling alone and having to kind of work through things on my own, and having to learn processes that were never taught to me in medical school. Um, I think now there's so many more resources, both free and public through the Small Business Administration, through podcasts like your own, through Facebook groups and other communities that are online through social media. I think you can seriously learn a lot of information from people that have gone through it.
I can imagine, starting something from scratch when maybe you really don't know anything about even how to begin. There's a lot of learning curves along the way. I'm sure a lot of mistakes get made and then rectified. But you're here. I mean, you've been in business quite a long time, and I would love to talk about how you really come up with the designs. I know you spoke on listening to your customers and kind of getting inspired by healthcare professionals and maybe what they want. Are there any other ways that you kind of get inspired, and what is it? What is the process like from thought to actually getting the charm made?
So the process, again, largely comes from requests from our customers, but they also come from, you know, thankfully, social media has grown in the last 12 to 13 years since I started the company. So there's just information everywhere of what people are wearing and how people are traveling and what excites people. And so I get a lot of information just by um, listening to podcasts and looking through social media, as well as having two teenage daughters and a teenage son. I get a lot of feedback from them as well in terms of what might be in style now or in fashion. And so I kind of look at everything. And we work by seasons as well. And so a big part of when I started was also giving back. And so we have several, ribbons and societies and charities that we donate to. So those are a core component, but then seasonal items as well have been very popular too. So we try to keep those going. But the process from coming to the design is literally just going through photos and pictures and basically just sitting and drawing. And then I send these drawings to the factory, and then we go back and forth. Samples are made and charms are created.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's something that is, I think, a great gift. It's a collection, as a sister or a friend or a mom, something you could really give to someone else to say, hey, graduation themed is just throughout life, kind of like the bracelets. I've seen that people do wear multiple charms on their stethoscopes. How many would you say is like math?
Well, stethoscope tubing is pretty long, so there is really no maximum number that you can have. But you bring up a good point. It's like, these are great gifts. But I got a message from a nurse not too long ago during Nurses Week, and she said, you know what? I went to work, and the administrators, and they gave me a water bottle and a little flower. She goes, but I would have loved to gotten your charm. Like, I think this is great to get your these charms as gifts. And I had not thought about that, in terms of recognizing who you are, recognizing great work, recognizing your care for patients and each other. So the gift possibilities are really endless.
Yeah, it really is. It's exciting to think about just like all the possibilities of the charms, and they are so beautiful. I know there's always like a sanitary situation going on, so are they easily cleanable?
Absolutely. So the charms themselves are made from zinc, which is a naturally occurring antibacterial in nature, and then they are plated with silver. But you can clean it with an alcohol swab that you can find pretty much on every floor of the hospital or clinic, and that will kind of clean the whole stethoscope tubing and the charms as well.
Is there a specific charm or design that is especially meaningful to you? Like maybe the very first one you created, or something that was inspired by your children?
So one of the first charms I ever created was the love charm. And so it is pink crystals with a red crystal heart on it. When I first saw it, I just was just I was just shocked because it was exactly how my daughter and I at the time, and she was probably about 8 years old. She had sketched it, and I kind of played around with it, and we sent it off to the factory for a sample, and it was just, that was the first time I thought, well, you know what, this could be something. This could be something. And I remember going into that first year, the holiday season is our biggest season, much like many products that are out on the market. And this was going to be my first holiday season, was when I was going to launch our products. And I remember I said to my husband, if I sell one charm and that's it, and I have to close a business, I'll be happy that I sold one charm, that someone bought it. And so it was an amazing first season. That is probably one of my favorite and most special charms that we had created. More recently, though, one of my favorites right now is our newly released Panda charm. So that same daughter, she went off to college this year. And before leaving for college, she was gifted. She loves stuffed animals, and so we gifted her a panda. And she would send little videos of the panda around campus and what the panda felt like every day on Snapchat. Was the panda sad? Was the panda stressed because, there were exams coming up? And so we followed Panda throughout the year, and I decided it was around the same time that the pandas came back to San Diego Zoo, that I decided, let's make the panda charm. And that has been very meaningful to me, and it reminds me of her. It reminds me of hope. It reminds me of beauty and challenges that we can all overcome.
I love that how the inspirations come to be, and that's so cute for the panda. But what a great idea. I mean, I remember when I went to college, it was really scary to be away from home for the first time in a new environment. And I went to Loyola Marymount University, and so a lot of the kids who went there also lived in California. So whether it was San Diego or Orange County, they would like drive home on the weekend. So it kind of felt like a ghost town because I was from Colorado. I couldn't just like go home and have my mom do my laundry, and so it was kind of lonely. So I think like having like a little, like a panda stuffed animal, something that's meaningful that comes from home, that's really sweet and beautiful. And I think a great idea, actually.
This is why I love you so much. My daughter goes to Loyola Marymount University as well.
She's close by. See, she can come by and get her laundry done.
She's close by, so we have been very fortunate for her to come frequently home. But no, I understand the challenges of
What a great school. I hope she's having a great
a wonderful time.
summer now, right? They're off.
Yes, yes.
And I actually want to dive a little bit more into, you were talking about causes and that you have some stethoscope charms for causes. Can you talk a little bit about what those are and what the causes are?
We had pretty large catalog of ribbons with different organizations that are recognized. I would say the pink ribbon for sure is the most popular. Autism ribbon is also kind of a second most popular, but we have literally a variety of different charms that are dedicated and to recognizing some of these chronic diseases.
So are there any dream collaborations or causes that you would love to work with in the future? Anything that you kind of got coming down the line or something you want to manifest?
Well, I would love to do another collaboration with MDF, obviously. I really enjoyed these last couple years working with the influencer community and nurses, PAs, MAs, vets that are out in the community and kind of doing their daily work and using charms during their daily times with patients. So I really enjoy that. I really enjoy kind of communicating with our customers and learning about new customers through influencers. But in terms of collaborations, I just would love to continue to collaborate with women-owned businesses in healthcare. I would love to support and really just partner in, whether it's scrub companies or stethoscope companies or things that, other accessories that we can all work together and really help each other not only gain new customers, but hopefully build a community, because ultimately that's what I really would love. I feel like healthcare can be so isolating for all of us in any degree of healthcare. And like I said, self-care is so important now, and I'm hearing it almost every day. I had a nurse that I was working with for 2 years, and she recently resigned. And she said, you know what? I want to go back to school. I want to get another degree. I want to, I may be 50 and kind of towards the end of my career, but I feel like there's something else out there. And I think self-care is more than just, exercising and eating right and, booking your spa appointment. It's about education. It's about community. It's about what's next, right? There's always something next. So that's what I would love to collaborate with other founders that feel the same way.
And that brings me to 2 points. I would think one benefit of the charms also are people can't steal it as easily because it's more obvious that that's not your stethoscope. Because you have charms on it, it's a little harder for people to take. Not that they couldn't take the charms off, but I think sometimes people grab and then it's like, no, that's mine. It has my charms on it. Take hands off. But also something you spoke on was, I think, really important about self-care, health, wellness, and feeling like you're building a community. And I really concur with that. I think it's so easy to say, oh, we appreciate the healthcare community, we appreciate, but it's different when you're actually showing up and you actually care and you want to do things to help support that community and make them feel seen, make them feel appreciated, and know that they're not just words. And I think it's really great to have like-minded people, a woman-owned company, doctor, who can see, who you are the person who is in that field who can relate better than you. The fact that we're always changing and growing, that who we are, when we're 25 and 45 and 60, we're always constantly evolving. And that's one thing I really love about especially nursing, is I think that they can segue into other specialties a little bit easier and kind of grow and change, go travel, go do these things. But I think building the community is so, so important.
I agree. I don't think our charms are going to save the world, but I hope that the charms will help bring light to problems that we have. It's okay to say that you're unhappy with how things are or that you want something more. And then I think that, building a community where we can talk about it without feeling bad, because I think for so long being in healthcare, we've had to hide a lot of our feelings and always be supportive of our patients, always sacrifice time that is very, very valuable. So I would like to continue to meet our customers, to hear the stories, and to find solutions if there are any.
And I think that's part of what this podcast is for, is also to make people understand and feel less alone, that we're all kind of like going through this together and figuring it out together and changing and growing, and that they're not alone in a lot of the feelings that they feel. And it's very hard, I think, especially with social media being highlight reels, and everybody thinks that, oh my gosh, everybody knows what they're doing except for me. And it's just really not the case. I've spoken to numerous nurses and doctors and across the board, PAs, veterinarians. I had a vet tech who's now becoming a nurse. She got burnt out in the vet tech world. And I think it's just so important to listen to whatever your heart, body, spirit is telling you. If you're unhappy or you've outgrown where you are, as scary as it is, you're not the only one. And it takes a lot of bravery to acknowledge and admit that, and even more courage to go and try something new. And I think what you're doing is so inspiring, because you you proved that you don't just have to do one thing, even though that one thing is incredible and incredibly difficult to achieve in the first place. But then you went in and branched out and said, well, I have more in me. I have this creative expression. And so how can I kind of marry the two, the healthcare part of me that I being a doctor and helping people, and also my creative spirit of, hey, let's create something unique. It's such a great kind of, I think, tribute.
But I do have to add, though, if I had to give advice to my younger self and to those kind of starting, and especially women starting in healthcare, is that it's okay to say no, right? Because your plate will be very, very full at some point. Um, and it's okay to say no. It's okay to put yourself first, because, you're the most important thing. You're the most important. Nothing else is going to function unless you are functioning well. So I think that would be my advice. I mean, I think that I have fallen into the trap of trying to do a lot of things. There were times when the company was struggling, and my kids were young, and I still was seeing patients every day, and I still was doing research, and I was still saying yes, 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 yes. And I think that can take a serious toll. So I think that if I had to give advice, would be it's okay to say no. People will ask again.
No, really, that is great advice. And I would add on to that that no is a complete sentence.
Right?
It doesn't have to be no because no, but just no. And
You don't have to explain yourself.
yeah, I no, I think that's really good advice. I actually haven't heard that one. That's unique, and I really like it. Because that was going to be my next question, was if you could go back and tell your younger self something, what would it be? But that's a great piece of advice. I think it's easier to, when you've worked so hard to, build up a business and have these things going, then all of a sudden, if it's like it rains, or it's either nothing or it's just coming down hard. So sometimes when it starts coming at you and you work so hard for those moments, it's really hard to say no, because you're like, oh, it's finally here. And then you have so many basically tennis balls coming at you that you're trying to hit. And you can do a disservice to yourself and your business and everything that you built if you don't also take care of yourself.
I think another piece of advice for someone who might be starting their own business too, especially if they've been in healthcare, because it's a very straight path in healthcare. You go to college, you go to either nursing school, PA school, DO school, MD, medical school. Then you go to work, then you're doing your thing. I think with business is that there's so many times that you have to pivot. And I think pivoting is difficult, at times when you're used to kind of trying to be very sure in what you're doing and being a perfectionist, or because in healthcare, when we make mistakes, potentially people can get sick, right? So there's an intense amount of pressure. So when things go wrong, I think those entrepreneurs that have been in healthcare before kind of really take it very, very, very heavy. But the art of pivoting is something that you really need to be able to do, and to think, okay, well, this didn't work, let's move to something else. And it doesn't have to always be perfect. In fact, even if it's not perfect, that could just be great, right? So those are also kind of things that I've thought about over the years as well, in terms of running a business that can be a challenge.
And I think you're just never going to be ready. I think one thing that people kind of get stuck on is, oh, I'll be ready next week, or when I got to get through this one thing, and then I'll start, and then I'll be ready. And it's like, I think you're just never ready. You're never going to feel like you're ready. And I think you just have to, one foot in front of the other, you have to start. It's about consistency rather than perfectionism. I think it's just about showing up and doing something. And if it doesn't work, pivoting, like you say, and trying it a different way, but not giving up. So some perseverance and determination, but also just not getting, not letting the no's and not letting the mistakes get you down, because I think that's part of the learning experience. And that actually just does make you better. And all that knowledge that you obtain, it never goes away. So everything that you're learning, you just keep building on, and eventually, you have even more knowledge. And then you become someone like you who can say, you can look back and say, wow, I've had a business for 13, 14 years and it's successful, and it wasn't always that way. And I've done the ups and downs so that when things are, down or up, you stick with it. It's like the stock market, like don't sell out, keep going, keep persevering. And I think it's really important that people know it's not always just, it's not always just perfect. It's not going to be always easy. Even when you lock in and have everything going well, and you can have a great year and then a not so great year. And I think that's part of business. And I think that can be harder for healthcare professionals because yes, you're right. Like your jobs are so serious and important, and you have people's lives in your hands. So at the end of the day, when you're doing it, when you have a business, it's way more out of your control because there's so many other factors that you can't. It doesn't matter how right you do something. It's just there's no rhyme or reason sometimes.
Right, right. And it's hard to take that first step because I think so many of us always want to have a good, perfect first step. And it's like you said, it's that you can't predict what's going to happen. It can't always be perfect. You can't always wait for that opportunity to be the perfect time because that may not be. I think one reason why healthcare professionals are great entrepreneurs is the fact that we're lifelong learners. We're constantly learning. We're constantly studying for exams. I'm still taking, board certifications in my age. So we can learn things that are not medicine related, right? We can learn, and there's so many opportunities now. Like I said, free opportunities online through companies, podcasts, listening, and just gaining knowledge that we're used to learning. We're like sponges. So I wouldn't doubt the foundation that a lot of us have to create businesses.
Talk a little bit about your career as a doctor and what you're doing and why you became a doctor, and just let everybody kind of get to know you on that side of things.
Yeah, so I, like many people, found medicine somewhat accidentally. I went to college as a Russian major and I wanted to work in foreign service. I was really interested in history and communications. But I started following around my pre-med friends and went to some clubs and really thought it was great. I always loved science, and so I kind of fell into medicine. Um, I Over the years, like I said, I've always been very, very interested in women's health. And so I spent the last 20 years or so working in research of the safety of medications and vaccines during pregnancy. I think that this is a population of patients that frequently is overlooked, and I kind of, that's my passion from a professional standpoint. But women's health has always been very important for me, and mentorship. So I created the Women's Health Committee at the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology to really help promote women's health issues in allergy and immunology, and also provide many women allergists to get together and network and be supportive of each other, so creating that community. So from a professional standpoint, women's health and mentorship of women is just very, very, is the forefront. And that's what I enjoy doing. So I continue it.
Can I ask you to drop all your social media handles where people can come find you, your website?
So we are on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Charmed Bling. If you type that in, you should find us. Pinterest. We are building a TikTok. You can find us also on our website, www.charmedbling.com, CharmedBling.com. Like I said, many people are more entrepreneurial in medicine than ever before. So if there are any of your listeners that are interested, you can always reach out to us and let us know, and maybe we can collaborate and work together.
Well, thank you so much for joining our Crafting Wellness podcast. I'm going to link below as well, everywhere where you can find Charmed as well, and as well as the website, so everybody can check that out. And we really appreciate you coming on and hearing all of your wonderful stories and inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brooke, for having me.